Hello everyone, my name is Sumit and welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm a digital chess coach, and in this video I'm going to discuss about the opening repertoire for beginners. And a lot of my students and budding chess players ask me, what are the best openings that I should choose? So the mistakes the beginners make is that they concentrate a lot on openings and memorizing opening variations, which I think is not the right approach. I think you should follow the opening principles, which is controlling the center with your pawns and pieces. Develop your pieces very quickly towards the center. Castle, keep your king safe, and do not move your queen early in the game. Do not move your pieces more than once until you finish your development. Connect your rooks by moving your queen to a good square, developing your queen and connecting the rooks, and put your rooks on open or semi-open plans. Your development is over. So what I'm going to suggest in this video is a very simple opening repertoire, but very effective. And it is basically about the understanding of openings and following this basic chess principles, which I told you just now. So uh, the repertoire is based on 1e4. And after 1e4, there are many replies black can play. Most common one is e4, e5. And against this, I recommend you to play the 4 knights Spanish, where you are not aiming for any opening advantage per se, but you are just focusing on your developing your pieces and castling all the chess principle I just told you, and entering a middle game without any catastrophe in the opening with a slight plus. So I would want you to develop your knight c3 first, entering into 4 knights, because after knight f3, there are many variations which you can avoid by playing knight to c3. For example, knight f3, they can play the Latvian gambits or the elephant gambits or the McDonald's variation. All these variations, even the Philidor defense, can be avoided by playing knight to c3 first. Now, they can't play f5, which is not that effective against knight to c3. So the options for black is limited to either knight to c6 or knight to f6 or bishop to c5 or even d6. So knight to f6, you play knight to f3, and now they can play knight to c6, and you play bishop to b5. This is the main position of the 4 knights Spanish. Look at the position. You have developed both your knights, your bishop is out, and you're ready to castle. Here, the main move is either bishop to b4, which is called the symmetrical line, or knight to d4, which is the Rubinstein's recommendation. Either way, the play is very, very simple. You just castle, develop your c1 bishop to g5, and just follow the opening principles, and you will be fine. There's a book which I would like to recommend for this, which is Khalifman's book. Soloviov and Khalifman has written a book, Squeezing e4 e5, which is a detailed analysis, which is called the Bible of e4 e5 of 4 knights Spanish. And I think it'll be very useful for you to understand the opening much better. And there are few chessable courses as well. So the idea of this video is not to go into the variations, but just to tell you some my recommendation. Now I'll list out the recommendation in the description as well. So this is my recommendation against e4 e5. Back. And the second best move that you're going to encounter in your games is the Sicilian defense. And if you play the open Sicilian with knight to f3, you have to learn the knight or the shell engine, the classical, the Shevashnikov, the Kalashnikov. There are a lot of lines. But what I recommend is to play c3, which is called the Alapin's variation, the Alapin Sicilian. And it's a very simple opening, and it discards all the variations that I've mentioned just now, and you enter a very simple position. For example, d6, and you play d4. The idea of c3 is to play d4. Then you play knight to f3, and bishop to d3, and castle, and the very simple way. For example, knight to f6, bishop to d3, g6. You can start with h3, bishop g7, knight f3, castle, and you have a very simple position. So again, there's a book written by Khalifman called Freezing the Sicilian, based on the Alapin variations. Very simple line. The main line of Alapin is basically not d6, but c3 to knight f6. And now you can play e5, knight e5, and you can play knight to f3 here. And in the next move, you can play bishop c4, castle, and there are many lines. And there are many streams of Daniel Noroditsky as well on YouTube. You can go to David Noroditsky's Daniel Noroditsky's channel and his speed run. There are a lot of Alapin games there. As explained, the theory of Alapin game. Or you can get the Khalifman's book, Khalifman and Soloviov book on the Alapin Sicilian. This covers the Sicilian, and now after e4, another move is the Caro-kann defense. I recommend you to play very simple takes, the exchange variation of the Caro-kann. And here, again, the position is very simple to play. Develop your bishops, your knights, and your castle. And again, I want you to investigate on your own. I'm just recommending these lines. You can find several courses and books. Again, there's a book written by Khalifman and Soloviov on the exchange variation of Caro-kann. You can get that book. It's a very good book on this. So that covers the Caro-kann, and after and the fourth most popular move is the French defense. So Fishbein has written a book on this, the exchange French with knight to f3. Here you don't play bishop e3, but you play knight to f3 with the idea of c4 later. And even Magnus Carlsen has played this line with the white pieces, and it's a very effective line, a very simple line against the French defense. So investigate on that. And against the Scandinavian, I recommend you to play knight to f3. Very simple line, bishop to g4, bishop to e2. If they play knight to f6, for example, you play castle, and after e6, you play d4, bishop e7, and you play c3 here. Because most of the Scandinavian lines, the d4 pawns comes in there. So c3 seems a very good way to solidify the position. And you just play knight to d2 or v1 and develop. So you can look for the games after knight to f3. You can get a chess database and you can look for the games after knight f3. Very simple, bishop e2, castle, and very simple development. So that covers the Scandinavian and the Pirc and modern. The Pirc and modern are cousins. So I recommend a similar approach to Pirc and modern. After d4, d5, knight f6, you don't play knight to c3, you play bishop to d3. And the next move you play c3, knight f3, h3, and you are simply fine. Also, you play rook e1, for example. G6, you play h3, g7, knight f3, castle, knight b6, c3. They play rook e1, play rook e8, e5, knight e2. You develop normally. The idea is to bring all the pieces into action. Or maybe you can start with g5 also, but I like knight d2, knight f1. Or you can simply play d5 also. Knight e7, play c4. So you have very decent position after c6, knight c3, and your play will continue like this. So that covers the Pirc and the modern. And after e4, knight f6, which is the Alekhine defense, you don't play e5, you play knight to c3. If you play e5, it gets transposed to the four knights, which are recommended. And if you play something like e5, just play e5, d4, takes, and queen d2, queen d2, bishop d2, bishop d7, and you are you are just fine. You can c3 here, so knight f3, and you have a normal position, which is kind of equal. So that covers the Alekhine defense. And after e4, there are other defenses like b6. Here you just play normally like bishop d3, knight f6, knight d2, e6, knight f3, bishop e7. You just also just normal developing moves based on the principles which I told you. And lastly, after e4, they can play maybe knight c6, which is the Yuzovich defense. You just play with knight to f3, and if they play e5, you just play, and you can transpose to the four knights or three knights game. So these are the recommendations I have for you, and you can explore it. I'll give a detailed description in the description below, and have fun. I'll see you in the next video.